turned on by accident. Yeah, I turned it on by accident.
Okay, he turned it on by accident.
Yeah, that's
Okay, my eye,
because
YouTube. We almost ready. You good? We ready? All right. Are we gonna do that part now that we already live? Okay. All right.
Saru, heck!
Army cow.
Sashet, ma'at hu ma'at.
Truth is truth.
Sashet, per'am in ma'at.
Go forth and live in truth.
Sashet, en ma'at peru.
Embrace the light of your highest reality.
Nasut Biddy, Rasan Ku Kepper, warrior,
Two.
priest,
Two.
healer,
Two.
king,
Two.
Hush.
Jerek in ma'at.
Speak firmly of truth.
Jerek in the term ma'at.
Speak divine truth.
Jerek in the term ma'at.
Speak the truth of the Neteru.
Jerek in the momentu ma'at.
Speak the ancestors' truth.
Jet nefer.
Speak well.
Sade Jordan,
Fear nothing.
Let's give energy to Nasut Biddy, Rasan Ku Kepper, Iamatep, Hush.
Amatu Panetir. Sawek Tuament Panetir. Awu Dwalma. Keti Pa Heru. The translation is thus.
Give yourself to God daily. Keep yourself to God daily. And may tomorrow be as today.
We give homage to the Creator, who is like our Father and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything, yet is no thing, who comes to us in the form of the Neteru Ra, who is the light of the heavens, light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibilities in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akiru, true of thought, word, and deed, to our highest reality, and in our moments of crisis in the dark nights of the soul, when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down, so it is, and so shall it be. Amen Ma'at.
Amen ma'at.
Ma'akiru.
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 And see, do it. You're on the way.
Yay!
So we're back. No response. So we had a whole month off. So what we did was the equivalent of what the college do for spring break. Almost forgot what to say up here. I was like, what's the new? You know, and so it's equivalent to like college break. But truth be told, just so y'all know, I have a song called Truth Be Told. It was on a CD that I released called The Primer. And this, it echoes my sentiment of how I feel just in general. I said, truth be told, there ain't much more to say. That's why I need some time away. Truth be told, I'm out here standing on biz. Sorry, that's just the way that it is. What that represents for me is I'm just in a certain place right now. I haven't been inspired to teach publicly in quite some time. And nothing is wrong. I'm in a good space, actually, in a space I haven't felt like in about 10 years, but I'm in a place where I'm loving on myself and loving on myself, receiving uploads and downloads, and I'm really not interested in sharing them with too many people outside of our personal circle. But don't worry, the communion still go on, because that's what temples do. You stay there as a beacon of light for those who are trying to find their way. But nowadays, as I look around, we having conversations about who's really looking for the way now. Everybody thinks they know everything right now. So what I'm saying about how I feel, I'm pulling back from more performatory acts. When I say performatory acts, I feel like those things are a carryover from our Judeo-Christian background. You know, this whole proselytizing thing. Oh, we got to fill up the seats. We got to fill it. We need a big temple. We're kingdom building and things like that. And performatory means you're out here trying to demonstrate that you somehow got a better or superior path. And I'm saying I'm pulling away from that. It's not a superior way. It's actually an inferior way. It's actually a weak position, because the people that you're presenting to, they get to be passive aggressive. They get to cross their arms and be like, well, I ain't impressed. They get to say, I don't think you've done enough for the community. And remember this one, oh, I don't believe you. I don't believe you are who you say you are. So pretty much I'm done with trying to impress, trying to display or prove anything to anyone. And that's actually liberating to me. Because quite to the contrary, in the ATR, the African traditional religions, what we call Kemmunion and the Kemetic traditions, the African traditions are quite conservative. Black people in general are quite conservative. When you look at the culture of Nigeria, it started off with 7 kingdoms, 7 villages, almost like the Game of Thrones and stuff, these villages that represent the greater culture, the greater nation. It started off with villages or kingdoms. And these villages and these kingdoms and these societies, they base their growth off of lineage. So you don't see African societies just out there trying to grow their kingdom, just indiscriminately inviting people in just for the sake of growing. So maybe this space that I'm in is actually my ancestors coming through and like, yo, go about that different. Everybody can't come to the cookout. Even people that we let come to the cookout, we gotta kind of look at them again and like, yo, you can't come to the cookout no more. It's with the sacred work we're doing requires a certain caliber of people, and though a lot that we let in are not the caliber, they never were the caliber, because we was doing this nationalistic thing, leave no one behind, and people stopped feeling like they had to qualify and contribute to this thing, for this thing to grow. Y'all follow?
Two.
And besides that, I'm not beat. The first time we took off was because it was Mother's Day. We're in the African tradition. We come from circles of people that say that the black woman is God and goddesses and stuff like that. So my man is like, take the day. My mother's not here, but I know a lot of young mothers is here, so take the day. Usually for Mother's Day, that starts off with a brunch or lunch, and that's right in the time that we have communion. So as of our experience, a lot of people talk a lot of tough talk about, hey, you're doing this European stuff, and then African and such. So when we created alternatives for people to participate in, because they claimed they were standing on not doing anything that was European influence, suddenly people come up missing. And I don't have a problem with it. This is going to come down to being transparent and having character, because people just won't come. The whole point is it takes a lot to set up space in order for people to get into sacred space. So if we set up this and you don't come because you're scared to say it's Mother's Day, I want to be with my mother. Because you're scared to say it's Christmas, I want to be with the family. Remember, we're African-based people. The whole foundation of it is family. And the truth is you have double loyalty. You got your spiritual family and you still have your biological family. And I don't want you feeling guilty for having to choose your biological family. Our legacy is not being hurt because you celebrated Mother's Day. So we have to look at our consciousness. And once again, why do we, in order for us to feel good about ourselves, why do we need to make somebody else feel lesser? This is character. So take the day for Mother's Day. I made that decision to take the day. Then I realized 2 weeks later, like, oh snap, Memorial Day. Damn, we just canceled. We never did this before. We never took off a month. This was out the box for us. So I said, like, okay, Memorial Day is a Black American, African American, American African holiday. that was dedicated to soldiers who fell in the war. So it's, in a sense, it's a Black American ancestral holiday. I think, was it yesterday, Middle Rights, the tribute to the youth? Is that this weekend?
Tribute to the ancestors.
Tribute to the ancestors in Coney Island. So you have the tribute to the ancestors of the Middle Passage, then you have Memorial Day, is the African American or the American African Ancestral Day. Even besides all that, we can't deny the fact that 99% of us are not entrepreneurs, and that you worked a job and that was still a 3-day weekend, whether you acknowledge Memorial Day or not. That was a 3-day weekend, and you look forward to 3-day weekends, whether you want to go to the beach, spend it with family, or just not do anything. So I'm trying to be sensitive to the fact that I don't want people showing up with split energy. I don't want you coming on Mother's Day and your mind is somewhere else. You can't wait to get out because you got to go to Mother's Day with your mother, and therefore you were never fully present. Or your mind is at the beach because it's Memorial Day weekend and you feel cheated because now you're here on Sunday and you don't feel like you really got the holiday. So I made a decision to just let everybody take the time. So that, in effect, was a sense of like a spring break. And maybe it was a much needed break, because we've been on this like this for 20-something years. You know, like, okay, month off. So the question is, will you reciprocate since you had the time off? Have you renewed yourself? Have you refreshed yourself? So are you ready to get back and stand on your point? I know the Masons say stand on the square. We got rod in the center. Are you ready to stand on that black dot? Are you ready to be centered? Also, would diminish my inspiration to teachers. 2024, this point of time that we're in, just as human culture, is a very interesting time. There was a time when information was special. There was a time when people craved authentic experience. That time seems like it's gone now, meaning the market is saturated with spirituality and spiritual teaching. And you know I do music. Based off of my research, they're saying nowadays it's 100,000 songs get uploaded a day on a streaming service. So at the end of the week, that's 500,000 songs. I know some of it is good music, some of it is bad music, but who's sifting through 500,000 songs to find some good music? And check it out. Now, the other research says most people are not looking for new music. Most people are just sticking with the music from 30 years ago. That means the music from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s is people's go-to, because that's people's catalog of what they feel like all of those songs already encapsulated their emotions, the range of emotions and experience that they experience, and they don't feel it can be done better. So they're not necessarily open to new artists, even though they may be good. So the same thing is happening in our spiritual community, conscious community, all of that. Since the advent of TikTok, you have people just looking for sound bites. So this whole woke thing done supplanted the conscious community. Now everybody's woke, everybody's deep. You watch the TikTok videos, they got the spooky music going on, and everybody thinking they breaking something down deep under the quote unquote, under the banner of exposing things, exposing the truth. You're like, yo, what's your methodology? How did you come up to that conclusion? And the mass of people don't know to question any of that. So people are looking for sound bites and not authentic experience. And same thing, so if people had to choose, I'm sure there's some good teachers out there, and I'm sure that there's some bad teachers, but people are not interested in trying to decipher who's the good as well as the bad. So just like the music people are choosing the old, we come across this thing where even in the conscious community, people are choosing the old teachers and they're not open to the ones that came after the old teachers. Meaning, if you remember, we have Dr. Settings, the Dr. Africa's, Dr. George, Dr. Bill Valentine, Dr. Blair, Dr. Van Sertima, Dr. Ben. Those are the usual suspects, though a lot of them have transitioned and gone on to become ancestors, and some people feel if you're not just rehashing the same thing the way they said it, they're not interested. So a lot of that old guard are not interested in elevating into authentic experiences, because many of those teachers, they were doing what they were supposed to do. They were opening the way for people like us to facilitate authentic experiences, but many of those teachers never experienced the authentic experience. So a lot of the students under them are stuck because their teachers didn't stay around and give them permission to be like, yo, go check that out. Yeah, you need to do that. Especially the ones that fall under Dr. Ben. So there's been a lot going on in the community. So I know when I canceled communion the first time, it was like, damn, canceled again. This never happened again. This never happened. So there's been a lot been going on in our community, the Kemetic community, since 2020. People been hearing a lot of stuff. You're hearing stuff like breakups, divorces. And I know in people's psyches, like, yo, what's going on? Are we losing momentum? Or is the Kemetic legacy falling off? Baba Heru even gave me a call and was like, yo, what's going on with the people? It's affecting his economics. You know, he made all of this stuff. So people ain't coming in proudly wanting their customized jewelry anymore. According to him, he believes that people kind of abandoned the legacy for the whole Anunnaki thing, just kind of like tethered themselves to another tradition because it's the new thing on the block. Remember, we live in the information that everybody wants something new and exciting. So he's like, where's the pride of being Kemetic? Like people, I don't see people wearing their unks or showing the legacy. You know, and I took my responsibility in that because when I was leading a certain way, now I realize the impact that we had on the community, whether we know it or not. It was an indirect impact on the community. So when we got our reading to fall back, the whole rest of the community fell back. When we were leading like that, inspired people, and people was coming out the woodwork and they were stepping their game up. So we fell back and everybody fell back. So that means people were paying attention even though they was acting like they wasn't paying attention. We were inspiring people indirectly. So, is the legacy falling off? Is it dying? I would say some things gotta die in order for certain things to live. And I don't mean to sound cryptic, but I just say life is out here lifing. Y'all heard that saying before. Once again, I gotta quote myself from the song. You know, where's the who said, why you quoting on your rap song? It's because it's relevant. The song called Dreams Come True on the primer. I said, life be lifing, and sometimes trifling. But I still stay open for what life might bring. My future's brightening because my vibrations lightening. I stay balanced like I was walking a tight string or rope. Dealing with what them ancients wrote, every day I find a quote that keeps me afloat. Isn't that what we're all doing? We're all trying to figure it out. That's why I said life is lifing. We're all trying to figure it out. As Kemites, we're trying to figure it out, and truth be told, check it out. The whole advent of the Kemetic legacy from the 70s to up until we came on the scene, a lot of it was rooted in judgmentalism. Can I say that again? A lot of how the Kemetic teachings was disseminated to the society and the community was based on a lot of judgmentalism. Many people were only Kemetic because they didn't want to be Christian. So then when you take a deeper look at these people's lifestyle, you find that there's nothing Kemetic about them outside of their name and the imagery that they hide behind. Some people were trying to be, and I say, don't base your identity on a reaction to something else. Some people were trying to be Kemetic just despite Christianity. And I'm going to say something that's never been said before or said in this way before. First, but if you notice, this was one of the only places where you could come to learn about our identity and our culture without all the cheap shots and shade at Christianity. If y'all remember for the past 5-7 years, I'm like, yo, leave the Christians alone, leave the Israelites alone, leave them alone. They trying to figure it out like everybody else trying to figure it out. If this is for them, they're gonna find their way here. There was a process for me to come here. You don't gotta rush that process. So, I'll say it like this. We're not Kemetic or ATR, so remember that's Europe and Ifa, Santeria. A lot of people chose this. Once again, they're thinking they're chosen because they're not trying to be Christian or Muslim. We're not Kemetic or ATR because it's more right or more correct or it's the best path. That sounds crazy. Like, what is it? What's the right path? What's the righteous path? Tell us. Listen. We're not Kemetic because this is better or more right. We're Kemetic because it was our right to decide what is right or wrong, success or failure based off our own standards. We're Kemetic or we're Afro-Kemetic because it is our right to figure things out based off our own tradition and not because something was passed to us since slavery. So it was an educated decision. Y'all understand? So with that being said, Being Kemetic is not an inoculation against death. Being Kemetic is not an inoculation against disease. Being Kemetic is not an inoculation against divorce. Our whole community has gone through a rites of passage. If we gone from the Kemetic legacy in America as old as hip hop. I'm 53, hip hop is 50. So it started in approximately about 78. So the spirit of the Kemetic legacy in America is 50 years old. Is it 50-year-old a grown man or grown person? So it's actually the beginning stages of elderhood. So there should be no immaturity going on. So it's gone through a full rites of passage. So we have to now ask, what does it look like for a Kemetic person to go through something? That's why I said leave the Christians and leave the Israelites alone. They were trying to figure some stuff out. Now it's our turn to figure some stuff out. It's been 50 years and everybody's looking now. So how does a Kemetic person handle crises? Remember, this is not a study group. This was the whole way of life that we were teaching or propagating. So how does a Kemetic person handle death? So we've been blessed that most of the people that started it is still around. Bob is still around. Infidisi is still around. Shechem is still around. Wawaka Ashby is still around. Yashir is still around. Himmet's still around. I'm still around. Who else am I missing? It's pretty much everybody. The Queen of Fu is still around. Pretty much everybody, all the luminaries are still around. It's almost to the point where we can't imagine not being around. But truth be told, that day is coming. All of us will not be here. May the gods forbid, and that to forbid. Some of us could be gone. Don't imagine that. Like if I was about here next week or him that was out the week after, then 2 years later, like that's something hard. So what does that mean to you? How would that impact you? Does it be like, oh, I quit, I can't go on, it's not the same no more? Remember, this is the rites of passage. What are you gonna do? And how do you handle these situations when you get hit with some serious crisis? How does a Kemetic person deal with terminal illness? Because a lot of people think, I drank the green juices and I did all the fasts, yet I still have cancer. What am I supposed to do when everything you did, the prayers, and it still ain't working, you still sick and you still about to die? How does a Kemite handle that? Because people taught this thing like if you got into the African thing, you got into the Kemetic thing, everything was going to be all right and it was going to work out because you was part of that weak Christianity, the weak Islam, the weak Israelite thing. You need to come back home. And I said coming back home is not an inoculation against life. How does a Kemetic person handle divorce? How does a Kemetic person handle being physically attacked? There's certain things we saw other societies go through that we haven't been through yet. And all those experiences are coming. We publicly attacked last year. So that now y'all know what I'm saying, that life be life. So we're all here to figure it out by the constant reflection of ourselves in contrast to what we say we believe. So now in 2024, what's really happening with the legacy is not falling off. What's happening is the novelty of it all is worn off. And you have to make up your mind of what really motivates you and inspires you to be this and do this and continue to be a part of this. Because it can't be the history no more. There's no more history books to read. You kind of know everybody's kind of being redundant. We got one last thing to do, which is to be great. Keep reading over the books about how somebody else is great ain't it. That was some motivation, but what are we going to do to add to that contribution of greatness? So I want to switch to the discussion part of reputation. In one of the texts, I think it's in Hebrew, it said, may my name not stink. So your name is your reputation. Your name is your honor. So your reputation is supposed to precede you. So is the smell of flowers preceding you or the smell of crack preceding you? ATR is about interdependence, not independence. I'll say ATR, African Traditional Religion, Kemmunion, African societies are about interdependence and not independence. Meaning, in order to get where it is that you're trying to go in life and do what it is that you're trying to do in life, you have to be liked, loved, or respected. Y'all get that? In order to get what you're trying to get in life and get to where you need to get to, you have to be liked, loved, or respected, or even feared. With that being said, we have to take responsibility of, like, sometimes we've been influenced by concepts from the dominant society. Dominant society leads people to believe that you don't have to care about people's thoughts, beliefs, and opinions. I don't care. I ain't trying to be a part of nothing. That's actually anti-African. To be like, I don't care about nobody. I don't need no man. I don't need no woman. I don't need to be a part. Oh, y'all sheep. That goes directly against everything African. Remember, interdependence, not independence. Even in their interdependence, there's levels of independence, just in case people are worried about that. In the African, to traditional African context, you always already knew who you were from birth. You got your readings, you have the elders, and remember, we're going to say we transported ourselves 5,000 years back. Those people didn't have to try to believe in themselves. They already knew. They got the readings, they knew their gifts, they knew their purpose. So those people never needed no space from their wife. They never not wanted to connect with the community. They never needed to find themselves. They already knew themselves. And they look forward to fellowship. That's why African festivals are off the hook. The energy is unmatched. They have festivals for days. You still see remnants of it with the Caribbean people's high energy. There's some power in collectively fellowshipping. So what I see people struggle with is they vacillate between the need for solitude and the need for connection and the need for community. So people kind of can't make up their mind or needing community and needing solitude. I saw this in the pandemic. People was coming out the blue wanting the vaccination form, be like, yo, who is you? I've never seen this name on a live stream or whatever. All of a sudden you need a community to give you power and authority against the forces in power that big. You see, that's a vacillation between I don't need nobody, y'all sheep, I don't need religion, to needing religion. People was coming to the Catholic Church doing anything they needed to do to get them vaccinations because they wasn't willing to take the consequences and stand on the decision of not getting that vaccinations, if that's what they believe. So let us go to representation. Proper representation, underrepresentation, overrepresentation. Do y'all believe we properly represent the living legacy currently?
Two.
Do you believe also that currently the living legacy is being underrepresented?
Two.
So that means you can accept that literally we're hiding behind the imagery of the ancients, the deities, all of that text and stuff, we're hiding behind that. And a lot of people don't know this thing is real because we don't show ourselves.
True.
And you're like, oh, that's Jehudi, oh, that's Rod, you get the names or whatever. So people think the living legacy is nothing but a glorified study group. So there's underrepresentation. There's overrepresentation in people's preoccupation with self and pathologies and failed shadow work. I repeat, there's overrepresentation of preoccupation with self and pathologies and failed shadow work and reckless expression. And that's not a judgment, it's just an observation. That's what it is. I don't care what nobody think. I don't care what nobody feel. Deal with it. Remember we said you can't get what you want to get out of life or go where you want to go if people don't like you, love you, respect you, or fear you. So if you have this reckless expression or failed shadow work, people get turned off and they pull back from their support. That makes sense, right? That's being overly represented. People doing their failed shadow work online. I just be having to step back from it. I'm just like, yo, y'all cool with all this? There's literally no filters anymore. All filters are down, and the shadow work is not being transmuted into bringing forth a better version of themselves. They thinking the shadow stuff is the better version of themselves. I seen one woman eating pizza. She had, I don't know how she did this, yoga maybe. She in the car seat, she had pizza in her toes, and she was eating pizza from her toes. And she was sucking the toe of her mate from the driver's side. I was like, why do we need to see this? Why are you comfortable showing that? Like, everybody has a right to expression, but why are you using your right to expression to do stuff like that? What message is being sent? That's the overrepresentation of the preoccupation of self and pathologies, failed shadow work, reckless expression. People are worshiping their feelings and their emotions and trying to justify unacceptable behavior. We say emotions are good servants but poor masters, right? The only time you get to not care is if you're righteous. I'll repeat, the only time you get to not care is if you're righteous. Righteousness, I define as respect of God's laws, respect of divine laws. So if you're part of a tradition that's in line with divine laws, and you're aligned with your tradition, and you're aligned with nature's laws, then you don't have to care what anybody else says, because a lot of people is into their pathological expression. You will be vindicated because technically you become aligned, you become a force of nature in your own right if you're aligned with divine law. So fighting you is like fighting the divine, and somebody say your hands are too short to box with God. So going against a righteous person is like going against Neter or the Neteru itself. So we're not trying to sell you on an identity. We're not trying to sell you. We're trying to offer people participation in our collective Kemetic identity. So when you see all those pictures and names, that's part of a collective identity that comes with requirements. How do we do that? For instance, we got the Kemetic summer solstice coming up next. So it's not going to be the communion, but it's going to be held on the next communion day. That's what we're doing. We're acknowledging the summer solstice over here in the Western Hemisphere. You have to look at it like this. Imagine if the ancient Kemites were displaced from their land and somehow they ended up in some foreign land. And they heard about something called the summer solstice. They go, oh yeah, that's like weather and pet. That reminds me of the old country. Even though they're in this new land without the priesthood, without the king, without the ideal structure, best believe they're gonna find some way to Kemeticize some type of tribute to this thing, right? Because that's what Africans do. We adapt. We're syncretists. We make it work. So that's what we're doing in the summer solstice next year. We're doing our unique expression over here in the Western Hemisphere and how we're acknowledging the summer solstice. Then 2 months after that, we have Weber and Pet. That is the Kemetic summer solstice. That's the opening of the year. We've generally been doing it in July, like the third week in July, which corresponds to when it rises over there in Kemmunion. But there's been conversation since then about when does it rise over here. It used to rise traditionally according to the rising of the Hopi River. That was supposed to be the traditional way of how they signified it. So now we've figured out when does it rise over here. Unfortunately, it doesn't signify anything in nature that, just to match that what the ancestors done. But we're doing it in the first weekend of August. So now understand this. We were all talking before. I feel and I think and I know there's way too many Kemetic people not doing Kemetic things. Shouldn't that be a problem?
Yes.
For you to take on this banner, take these names, kind of fornicate with the culture, yet you do nothing Kemetic? It's way too many, even Kemetic initiates, way too many Kemetic initiates that are not active in the system that they swore allegiance to. So when you say, is the culture dying, if it's dying, it's because of lack of honor of the participants, not anything we did in the room. We show up. We show up whether the room is empty or full. Why isn't that energy being matched for the hundreds, maybe thousands of Kemetic initiates, direct and indirect initiates out there? You understand? When I adopted taking on Weber and Pet, it came at the, Baba and Queen went through their crisis and it just got stopped. It wasn't being followed. I think it was down maybe 2 years, and I was like, okay, this is supposed to be something special. They held it down for maybe 20-something years before. Like this was supposed to continue. This was supposed to be a big deal. Yeah, I know I study other cultures. I had back when magazines, before digital, back when I used to get a subscription to a magazine called Yoga Journal. And it was about Hinduism culture. And ironically, I see more clear connection between Hinduism and the Kemetic thing than many of the other African things. It's there, you gotta kind of dig deeper, but I see it right on the surface with the Hindu thing. So anyway, I get the magazine and I open the cover, but the cover has extended, it has an extra flap to the cover, and I'm looking, and I look at it, and it's a sea of people, and there's a 300-foot statue of one of their gods. And then I read the article, it said 1.5 million people show up for this festival, which is equivalent to our Weber and Pet. 1.5 million people show up to this festival. And they say even Buddhists become, so people from other traditions be like, yo, that energy is serious, I need to be there. Even though the root of Buddhism and Hinduism come from the same culture, but clearly the expression of Buddhism and Hinduism is two different expressions. So look at that. 1.5 million people show up for this thing that they've all been initiated into. So I've studied the history of Wetland Pet. Wetland Pet says 700,000 pilgrims came to celebrate Wetland Pet. They didn't have as many as people on the planet back then, but 700,000. What is a pilgrim? What does that imply? Travel. So people left their comforts and the convenience of their home, came. Imagine 700,000 out-of-towners showing up for events. So it's that same type of fervor for this 1.5 million. So that's not duty, that's devotion. Duty is like, oh, I gotta do it because I guess I said I signed up for it. Devotion is the love of the duty. You're like, yo, I want to go. So this is a time where initiates supposed to be looking at it like it's going to great adventure or amusement park. Like, yo, I'm going to be invigorated. This is the family reunion of all the people like me, my tribe. Everybody out here trying to act like they cool but by themselves, but they're actually alone and lonely, and they still wondering about their tribe. What's the tribe? And I'm saying there's enough Kemetic people out there that's supposed to have that type of fervor for the legacy. So bring it all together. So if it falls, this thing about if it falls or dies, it's only when the people either consciously or unconsciously decide that it's no longer important. I repeat, if this thing of ours falls or dies, it's because the people, and because it's not us. We going hard, like we each one of us in this room is holding it down for at least 10 other people. So I'm speaking to the hearts and the minds of the other people, like, you okay letting your brothers and sisters take the brunt of the work? There's things that could be accomplished that you all want to see accomplished, and you letting a handful of people do all the work and struggle so you can get all the accolades. Oh, like, we doing it. Y'all trying to live vicariously through us? That's unfair. Where's the sense of my? So if you're not fully supporting, if you're not showing up, you made a decision to decide that this is not important enough for you to make the necessary sacrifices to do what it all is that we all said is important. So let me bring it on a positive note, end it on a positive note. With all that being said, I'm proud of who we are, who we've become, who we're becoming, all the things that we've done up until this point, and I do look forward to new and exciting ventures going forward in the past with the family. I look forward to slaying dragons and killing demons. So for the rest of y'all out there that kind of follow us indirectly or live in vicariously, it's all cool. I'm just saying, so if you want to fellowship with people who are committed to figuring it out, and sometimes we're going to get it right, sometimes we're going to get it wrong, sometimes we're going to succeed, and sometimes we're going to fail, but we're committed nevertheless. And I think that's the most transparent and honest thing any spiritual person could say. Because before me saying this, best believe, Nation of Islam, whatever, everybody led you to with the impression that if you join that thing, everything was going to be all right. So when people come up against some hardships or some characters rubbing wrong, they leave because they thought they was joining heaven. I'm saying we're going to get it right, we're going to get it wrong, we're going to succeed, we're going to fail, but we're committed to the betterment, period. So if that's what you're interested in, remember there's no such thing as a solitary Kemite. There's no such thing as a solitary practitioner. If you're a Kemite in the real sense and you've been initiated in one of these temples or initiated anywhere, you belong to a society and it has responsibilities. You have a responsibility to keep this thing going. And how dare you let it fall, especially if there was no reason. Life ain't that hard to make the decision to support something that's supposed to keep going from one generation to the next. Don't let this thing die as some type of inactive study group. So with that being said, I'll leave y'all on that note. That's what's going on in our community. Like, it's all good. As long as it's in our hands, everything is all good. The legacy is alive and well. So today is our statement to, what they say, rebrand ourselves, reinvent. Like, we're in the process of reinventing what it means to be Kemetic. Y'all cool with that? So let's stand up and close out. Left foot forward, hands to the 90 degree. say shimmy and matep.
Kemmunion.
Men right over left and women left over right. We say we go in peace and satisfaction.
We go in
Peace and satisfaction.
Not that. All right. Bring it into the heart chakra. The count of 3. Stomp out and ground. Why? Solution lit. All right.
Weapon Pet is Saturday, August 3rd, for those of you who are on our YouTube and Facebook channels. So we invite you, we encourage you to please start making plans to join us for Weapon Pet in August, Saturday, August 3rd in Essex County, New Jersey. You can go to our website, templeofthenew.org, for all the information that you need to RSVP and join us for Weapon Pet. And those of you who are able to come out on Sunday, June 23rd, for our summer solstice celebration, you guys are also welcome and encouraged to participate in that as well. It is open to all right? Donations for today can be sent by PayPal or Zelle to templeofnew@gmail.com, Cash App, $Temple of New. We appreciate your time and your energy and the reciprocity that you send to us in the form of your donations. And we look forward to seeing you on June 23rd. And we're very excited to see you all at Weapon Pet. Sherry Mattel.